Thanks everyone for being here. I'm very excited to talk about this topic because there's just so much to discuss. I feel like we need like 4 hours, not 40 minutes, but we have some really amazing panelists here. I'm just going to let them introduce themselves. So Jacquelle, you want to go first?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jacquel Horton. I think I'm filling in for Jamie, who was on the screen there. Sorry that she couldn't make it, but love her. Happy to be here. I'm the CEO and founder of Fave. I drive a platform that is dedicated to super fans. So for those who have this intense passion around the artists that they love, we focus on fan-to-fan connection, right? So gathering these communities where they can be empowered and showcase their own creativity, their own expressions, dive into commerce, kind of sell and buy things from each other around the artists that they love and connect there. And so very excited to be on this panel and understand how community and fandom can push us forward into what is the now, not even just the future, right? Around the different Web3 technologies. I had spent 7.5 years at Google, where 5 of those years was driving the fan engagement and creator teams there. And so have spent a ton of time thinking about not only how we can better the way that these communities work, but how we can innovate around the future. And I am thrilled that in the last year, we have seen so much push forward around Web3 and that a new future has been calculated and we can restart that innovation again. So super excited to dive in, and thanks again for having me.
Jeremy?
Oh yeah, for sure. Jacquelle, great to see you again. I think we pitched opposite each other during the Narwhals a couple of years ago. So congrats on winning that again, and the success you guys have had since then. I've been following closely, and platform is growing amazingly well. And all the best success. I'm looking forward to diving into the conversation with you as well, Tatiana, with you as well. So I'm Jeremy, founder and CEO of Rimark. Over the last year, we kind of pivoted what we're working on from being sort of a marketing CRM platform for artists to now focusing a little bit more in the Web3 space. Basically, what we're doing is we created a marketplace where we list branded cryptocurrencies for creators, communities, and companies. So basically, the idea is it's very kind of a Web3 idea in that we're basically building a marketplace where fans and customers can own a piece of the community of their favorite creator company or community. So really interested and excited to dive into the conversation. And thanks to Niall for the invite and setting this all up today.
Awesome. And we should be joined in a little bit by Kevin Brown, the founder and CEO of Fancircles as well. So he should be joining us. But yeah, just to kind of frame the conversation a little bit. So I'm a music industry analyst consultant at MIDiA Research. And fandom is one of our biggest areas of study. And what we've been looking at recently is how new generations of fans are really looking to be more hands-on and more involved with their fandom, listening to music, adding it to a playlist, things like that. Whereas that seems, like a exciting thing for me, for this new generation, it's kind of two-dimensional. They want to be more 3D and they want to create TikTok videos. They want to join a Discord. They want to remix your song with stems. And adding to that, I think, is the fact that people increasingly see themselves as creators. So how that kind of relates to what we're talking about today is I think Web3 offers a really exciting framework to take advantage of that and to build on that. And by the way, when we say Web3, just thinking about I don't know the level of familiarity in the audience, but we're talking about a decentralized online ecosystem where everything is backed by the blockchain. And that includes things like NFTs, DAOs, which I'm sure we'll get into, and cryptocurrencies and social tokens, which we'll also talk about. But I think another thing that we always want to keep in mind that we talk about a lot at MIDiA is that when there's new technology, it can be really tempting to kind of jump on it and just throw it on anything that you possibly can. And we always want to remember that everything starts with the consumer and their needs. So we want to focus on first, what are the needs that fans have today? And then look at, okay, based on that, how can we use Web3? So I thought that would be a good place to start, is just what new and emerging needs are you guys seeing from fan communities? And in what ways do you think that Web3 might be able to kind of fill those?
Happy to kick it off. I think from our perspective, what we're really looking at is the idea of ownership. Typically, in the music industry up until this point, although artists do talk about this idea of, hey, it's all about the fans and we do this for the fans. If you kind of go below the surface, it's really the ultimate sales pitch, right? They want you to listen to their music, buy their merch, and go to the shows, right? That's the normal playbook. So what Web3 really offers, this ability, whether that's through social tokens, NFTs, or DAOs, or what have you, is really to create a two-way street where the fans can become owners in the community that they're helping to build through, using their voices on socials or, word of mouth, all those types of things. So that's something that we're looking at Rimark, is creating a platform, creating a space where, I really love that point, Tatiana, about being customer driven. And I think a lot of Web3 products are maybe more idea driven at this point and not necessarily thinking about the customer first. So that's one of the things that we pride ourselves at Rimark, is thinking about how are we making this easy for the customer that really solves a need or a want, or even perhaps a problem that they're facing. So providing this opportunity, creating this two-way street where fans can not only be consumers, but they can also be owners and participate in the upside of success of their favorite artists.
Wonderful. And I love that you set this up in that way of technology seems to lead sometimes, and it should be the consumers. I can't tell you how much I preach that as anytime I preface my Web3 discussions, right? Because we, as Rimark does, right, pride ourselves on that, right? Where we very much recognize that fans have looked at Web3 sometimes and gone, okay, is this actually something that gives me as a fan value, right? I think there's many different models that do, but fans sometimes feel like they may be being taken advantage of in some cases, or is this really what it purports to do? Or, they look at it with such a skeptical eye, and we try to understand why that is, right? Why sometimes fans look at this as they're allergic to it, or is it just it's something new and it's a bit intimidating to understand how we can make value come out of this, right? Is it that, oh no, I completely get it, but I'm not sure where I fit in and my needs fit in, right? We spend a lot of time diving into this. And so even as we arrive at solutions for Fave, we make sure that we, again, kind of start with that user first need and then bring the value around it. And even in doing so, right, I think we take even higher caution than, okay, we want to bring you value in Web3, but say, let's focus on the growth and unlocking the value in even just Web2 parallels, right? So for example, we drive a lot of thought around how we can allow fans to earn badges for the various activity that they do as a fan. As you can imagine, a parallel to that is NFTs and that unlocking utilities, right? And so earning this badge for either intrinsic value to kind of show off to friends and have, clout and kind of rep in different things that you've done here. It's, how much I've uploaded fan art, or that I attended this event, right? Or that I reached a milestone with the fandom and we all allowed the music video on day one to reach 50 million views, right? Things like this. Those are badges of honor. Those can also be looked at as, okay, how can this thing get me value, right? How can this thing be unlocked for utility? And we allow for this technology to kind of live based on things that people are aware of right now, to really test out how much they want it, how much they understand that, and then say, this is underlined with things that can unlock even deeper value within Web3, right? Where the ownership of you having this and being able to take this anywhere and go to another place, right? And unlock additional value in this other platform, right? Or on the ground and be at a festival and use your badge that you earned on Fave to gain benefits at a different booths around, right? Can be super interesting for us to understand how to pull these into various technologies. And so we really understand that there's some caution that needs to be taken with super fans in particular, and are making sure that the trust for how we introduce this is earned first before we say, no, don't worry. Like we'll figure it out with the new tech. Just come aboard and buy an NFT. So it's been super interesting for us to have many of these conversations with fans to make sure that we're kind of starting at that why before anything.
Totally. No, I'm so glad that you brought up that point about the parallels. I was hoping that we would get into that in this conversation and was almost like, oh no, is this going to be controversial to say? But it's not. There are elements of Web3 that you can experiment with now, and digital collectibles, I think, is a really, really exciting area of that, especially when you said fan badges, because that is serving a need for self-expression from fans and being able to show, hey, I'm a fan of this artist. So that can be really exciting. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And I'm curious, from both of your perspectives, what kind of sentiment you have seen so far. Jacquelle, you mentioned having conversations with fans about this. What are you seeing in terms of what fans are excited about and what things they're more hesitant about?
Mm-hmm. So I'll start with the hesitancies, right? I think sometimes there's skepticism when it's just a drop and then that's it, right? Where, of course, the artwork that comes with an NFT is amazing, incredible, right? That is the same way you pride yourselves on having the cover of a record rather than the music within, right? That's something we all kind of know and love. But I think people wonder about whether or not this is something that, and the term that gets said to me is just a money grab, right? Or if this is something that will truly continue. And I think what fans will be excited to see may take some time, where you owning an NFT for a year or 2 or 3 has built up value, right? That, again, as Rimark focuses on, that investment that you make up front is worth something right down the line. And so I think we need some time to prove out these use cases where a lot of it might right now just be a bit, short-lived as people try to grasp for value. But I do think that people see that, for example, even jumping to other places in the metaverse, right, around connection, where we like to spend a lot of time on, is as you put it in the beginning, the ability to immerse so much more deeply than we were before, right? Where we have, again, kind of many chats with fans who are international and their artists are based in the US and they adore them and are in their bedroom feeling so isolated about how much they love this person. And all they want to do is just immerse with other people that are like-minded to them and just nerd out, right, unapologetically. And so while right now we kind of have these different spaces where they can do that, doing so in a virtual world, doing so with an avatar that allows you to show that self-expression and the clothes that either you've created or you've purchased from a fellow fan or things like this, right, are where we get excited around enabling. And so I think those kinds of things are where again, that super underlying why around why people love music in the first place, and that common thread that runs through all of them, that you play a song, you see you both love it, you're just the same DNA deep down, is where we can bring those things to fuller life in this virtual world, where, as sometimes people thought it felt a bit silly to walk around with an avatar, but now it feels so real and tangible and getting better every day, that's where we see a lot of promise, and we're excited about that.
Nice. I would also just add in on sort of the challenges side of it. Is there are so many projects right now. It's just been many places equated to the .com bubble of the early 2000s, where everybody just put .com after their company name, right? Just because that would be relevant. So there are some projects that do that as well. Now we've had a little bit of a downturn in the crypto market, which has hopefully weeded out some of the cash grab projects and things like that. So I think from a consumer fan perspective, it's about building trust and which are the platforms that are going to stick around, really going to be providing that long-term value, as Jacquelle mentioned. That's really the mark of a successful project, right? Is it more than just the one NFT drop this week and then, all right, so yeah, that was cool, right? But trying to create that long-term value. And I think that's the challenge for us as builders in the space, to be able to sustain that interest, continue doing things that are exciting for the users of our platforms, to keep them coming back and building that trust as well. But as to quote Gary Vee, 90% of all NFTs right now will probably not be worth anything in a couple years. So yeah, it's a lot of people have also talked about NFTs as the idea in music of solving the monetization problem for artists. I did a whole article about this, but sort of my, I guess, let's say pessimistic view of that is that it doesn't solve the main problem for artists, which is discovery, right? If you have 60,000 songs being uploaded to Spotify every day, and maybe at some point we have 60,000 NFTs being minted every day, you still have to sort through and find the good ones. So it's, again, there will probably be a consolidation of platforms, which will then, be the go-to place for fans and build that trust.
Yeah, no, I think you both made really good points about how one of the main benefits for fans in the Web3 world is being able to invest in something and then it have value in the future. But we simply have not had enough time to let that happen and let them realize, that benefit. But I do think that social tokens, like what you're doing at Rimark, are really interesting because there is this need that fans, that everybody has felt, that I've felt before, where when you have an artist that you love and they're super underground and you're part of that fan club, and then they become super mainstream and everyone knows them and you're like, wait, I was here first. And you actually have this emotional, you feel upset almost. And I think that's a need, that feeling is a need that you can fill by, if you invest in an artist's career early on and you have this token that proves that. I think that's really interesting. And also we have our fourth speaker just joined us, Kevin Brown from Fancircles. I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourself. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, so sorry I missed the first few minutes.
Nice.
I think we're talking about it at the moment. But so I run a company called Fancircles. We run over 50 different apps for artists, from Boy George through to Robbie Williams through to a lot of people. And these apps really, as a company, we've been going for 5 years. And we relied on subscription revenue to generate money for artists. We generate around about $100,000 per, sorry about the bleeps there, $100,000 per 1,000 fans. And NFTs have really changed everything really for us. So we've gone from a quantity business, which I think we've all been in for a long time in terms of quantity and vanity metrics on socials, to a scarcity business. So, which has really been fascinating. So now there are only 10,000 spaces for the Boy George app. You can only get in and get access to the content in there, such as the music player, the video player, the ability to purchase tickets early. So we bring all the utility together into one place, and also connect the wallet with the identity of the owner as well. So it's kind of an all-round sort of CRM system, but also a place to build engagement between fans that don't hold NFTs and fans that do, by that sort of that situation where you've just got people fighting, wanting to have the stuff that they can't get. Simple as that.
Awesome. We've been talking a lot about so far how fans are already embracing Web3 tech and how in what ways that they're more hesitant. And Jacquelle was bringing up how it's better to kind of earn your fans' trust first before you bring these things in, and to, maybe even use Web2 parallels like digital collectibles before you get to NFTs. I'm curious, Kevin, how it's been with onboarding with the artists that you've worked with. Have there been any artists that their fans aren't really ready for Web3? And what do you do if you're an artist who's really ready to get into this world, but your fans just kind of aren't as ready as you are?
I think it's a really good question. I think from my point of view, I think what's happened is this. I've watched the space grow for the last, 9 months, if that. So, I mean, we're all new to it at the end of the day. But I think when it came to anonymous NFTs, i.e., if it went wrong, you could just disappear. There was no repercussions. And I think what's happened is the same people that have been doing that for some time now have then launched other NFTs for people like Boy George, like for the Wombats, for Avenged Sevenfold in the US. And I think they're using that kind of methodology of saying, well, let's just pump it out in the standard way that you would do an NFT and just see what we get in the bank. But of course, the problem is, if you're a brand already, and Boy George is a really good example of this one, if you're a brand already, that 10,000 collection only sold 1,000. Now, it's down to timing in the market, and there was problems during the minting. But the problem now is you've got 1,000 fans or 1,000 people, not necessarily fans, but slowly but surely they will go into the hands of fans on the secondary market. But you've got fans that have paid the full price for the NFT, and because they didn't sell them, they're now stuck with the problem that they are cheaper on the secondary market than the mint price. So they now can't mint any. And there's no running away from this. And I think the Wombats got into a similar situation where they only sold a certain proportion of them initially. And there was a bit of rebellion against this from the fan base, and you can see that on Twitter. And I think it's about educating people and going into this slowly with a very small, maybe 10 collection of something really special, and call that your Genesis collection. That introduces the fans to the idea of what they're about, and actually that they're not just a JPEG, call it NFT, which feels really alien to most people anyway, but actually just shows them that this very small range gives them lifelong access to these utilities, one of them hopefully being the use of a fan community platform, which is really, really important when it comes to launching a brand-related NFT. And I think basically we've just gone from an anonymous marketplace to something that is now tied to a brand, and you can't run away if it goes wrong. You've got to service it well. You've got to look after people, and the roadmap of items that you've got to include has got to be pretty comprehensive to convince anybody really to hold on to something. And if there's real value in there, and again, with Fancircles, the real value could be, for example, not only content, but more importantly, community, but also the ability to purchase tickets a day earlier than anybody else by holding the NFT, all gated within the app. The whole thing is taken care of by the CRM system in the app. So if you give that value, there's not really a reason to want to sell something if you're guaranteed a front block ticket for a show. Because you hold that NFT. So we're just providing that ecosystem to connect the ID together with the wallet holder and a community of true fans, separating all the people that were in the Discord channel on launch that were just flippers. Now they're trouble. You need to get rid of those straight away. Mm-hmm. So that's
And the stakes are high when you're, like you said, like no longer anonymous. You're a brand that you can't run away when things go wrong, because it's like if you rush to drop an NFT collection and it goes badly, your fans, like that's their first ever experience with an NFT, and first impressions matter. And if they had a bad experience, it's not just that like it's this blip of a moment in time where things were bad and then people move on. It's like those fans might never try NFTs again because their first experience was bad. So it's like the stakes are pretty high. No pressure, but it's something to think about. But you also brought up like some stuff with like tickets, and one of the topics I wanted to bring up here is we're always thinking about how to not just like replicate physical experiences online and vice versa, but just have a more symbiotic relationship with virtual fan communities and in-person ones. Like, how do you see Web3 fandom like living alongside and maybe having a symbiotic relationship with in-person fandom?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what we do is just bring a community together so they can share their experiences. So Paloma Faith has her app with us. She's just finished a tour recently. So the fan wall is full of video, live video, in fact, pictures, meet and greet pictures after the show. It's a place for fans to share their experience, but also it means that those experiences can actually happen because, for example, and we all know that this works, this happens in music, right? It's going to be the biggest fans that you have that buy the NFT and also the flippers, the NFT flippers, right? So that's the sort of combination. The real absolute avid fans, but you've got a chance that avid fan that's actually gone to the trouble of really doing their best to get an NFT could also be your worst stalker. And you need to know that before they sort of turn up with a wallet address and go, can I come in? So, and I think there's a lot of thought that needs to go around the terms and conditions of a lot of these things that aren't in place currently. And again, us being able to sort of check the wallet, know who owns the NFT, means that not only can you stop that situation from happening, and it does, it's a real situation. The last thing you want is a meet and greet with the fan with the tattoo on the forehead of your name, possibly anyway. But equally, how do you organise meet and greets, or how do you organise upgrades on tickets? How do you organise a sound check moment? You've got a box office that needs to understand how to let people in, and they're not going to be interested in looking at wallets and understanding that. So our system just allows that connection to be made, so we can say, right, here's a list of all the people that can get into the meet and greet tonight, that can be passed straight to the box office for waiting for people to arrive to get those. So I think this mixture between real world and digital all comes together in a community. Because NFT is about community, yet there's only one community type platform out there called Discord. And Discord, well, I mean, even the word itself tells you what it's about. There's total discord in there. It's total disagreement. It's not the right place for the majority of fans. They don't understand it. It's a gamer platform, and it's not really meant to work with 10,000 people. It's like using WhatsApp in a group of 10,000. You leave it after a few minutes. It doesn't work. So it's kind of, I understand why a lot of people use Discord as their core group of a way to connect people. But I think when it comes to brands, they need a fully branded experience, and each of our apps are fully branded to that particular artist. You can go and download the Paloma Faith app from the App Store, or you can go to palomafaith.fan.direct, for example, or like I said, we've got boygeorge.fan.direct, and you can download the app from there. Mm-hmm. So, and again, I think now you've got so many social media platforms out there. The simple question is, well, where is home now for an artist and the fans? Because it appears to be everywhere, but it can't be everywhere. If it's everywhere, it's nowhere. And I think bringing people back home into this one place is to harness in your own data for a start, which the social platforms won't give you, and also validation of NFT holders. Similar
to Fave in terms of creating one digital community for fans, right?
Absolutely. And I think it was interesting to think through the scarcity that you brought up, right? Around, it's like, it's really about this core set versus the everyone else. And there's got to be something in the middle too, right? Because there's absolutely so much value in, these are the 10,000 people that earned and shared this unique experience and had this thing happen, right? Where for an NFT, it could be because we all purchased this one thing, but there could be something around like, we are this subgroup within this fandom, right? Who we have experienced things where it's like, hey, we're the folks who are over 40 who love BTS. And, we, wake up and chat with each other and we share our experiences together, and here we are. Or the art-mies, right? Like the artists who are armies, right? For again, the BTS fandom. This has been interesting to see these sub-communities form, that it's less about the fact that we all shared the desire to own this NFT monetarily, but rather that we have a even tighter DNA within something that we love, is an interesting way to also look at these communities. And then kind of, again, in the middle of that is there's a difference between everybody who's on Twitter, everybody who's on Instagram, my coworkers and school friends, and peering eyes looking into what we're doing, antis as fans call them, right? These are things that, yes, while there is an app to talk to other individuals. To Kevin's point, isn't the place where fans can be fans and just be unapologetic and be weird together and talk in code that nobody else will understand that message. But if you say that to a fan, it's, I got you, and I know who you are. And so it's cool to unlock that at scale. But of course, we recognize that there is a need for there to be a quality bar, right? Like a minimum bar for these people who aren't just, hey, casual fans, I think this artist is cool, but also is one where it's accessible to folks who can connect on many different threads and levels and have conversations. So there's a ton of permutations that you can have to community that as we see the value in having these more quality conversations, right? We can introduce this lack of, I'm in the middle of a sea, and even though there's a million fans, millions of fans who also follow this person or like this person, I feel alone still. I think it's cool that people can have a safe haven. And that's, again, kind of where Fave is focused to drive that fan-fan connection.
I think that was very interesting about BTS because, this is the future of fandom and Web3. But when you look at what BTS do and actually what happens in both Korea and Japan, fan clubs are absolutely the key to it. When you see BTS trending, it's because they have their own fan platform. And they tell their fans to go and hashtag a particular thing at a particular time, and they all go and do it, which is why they always win any kind of, Twitter competition or radio play, for example, with one of our artists that we work with. They immobilize their, and again, using your words, army of people to say, right, guys, we're in, I don't know, Denver tonight. Can you all go and tweet this radio station to go and play our song? And I've seen that happen time and time again because you're in an environment of safety. And again, you mentioned the safety aspect, and they feel very comfortable in there. I always joke that if you put all the flat earthers into a community platform, great, because nobody's going to argue with them. So they'll love it. And I think, but it's the same for an artist. Paloma Faith was really nervous about being on Instagram Live because, like a lot of artists, they get quite a bit of abuse, as well as the nice side of things. But she wanted to take it away from that sort of mass market thing and put it where her fans were. And in doing that, created this incredible environment that I've never seen before. She just had a baby. She recorded some little videos. For example, one video was write me 4 bars of a song if you could write a song. And there was 30 or 40 responses. You can see it in the app. And these people are vested in doing that. We posted the same to Instagram just as a bit of a tester. Of course, we got more likes, but the comments were basically thumbs ups or okays or no actual interaction. And then you look at the fan wall and you see pictures of proud fans holding their album next to them, or there's a beautiful sort of video of a girl sign language in one of the songs. And I spoke to this girl and she said, I would have never done that on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else. People feel safe in these places. And I think that's the other thing. That's the main thing about socials now. It's not a nice place to be. You need to be with people that you want to be with, not the whole world. That's never worked out well, has it?
No, this fan club idea that you're bringing up, I'm really glad, because something we haven't gotten to yet that I feel like we have to chat about before this is over is the DAO concept, which is decentralized autonomous organization for anybody watching, which is basically the concept for a fan club. Using that is you would pay or earn a token to join this fan club. It would mean that you are part of this decentralized, like sort of community governed community, and each token holder gets one vote on, the rules or even what single an artist releases next, if it's an artist focused like fan club DAO, or like what their cover art looks like. And there's kind of levels to that. I think having a DAO fan club doesn't have to mean that you give your fans total control over everything, but the concept is community governance. And I think that's really interesting, and brings up a lot of questions about like how much what are the limits of fan input and fan governance? Does every artist even really want that? Like, what is what do fan clubs look like in Web3? So I don't know if any of you have had experience with DAOs before or have thoughts on this. This is kind of broad, but just wanted to bring that concept up because it's the one we haven't talked about yet.
One of our artists has been considering doing it. And I think the question I put to him was, what do you want to get out of the DAO, right? What are you trying to achieve here, right? If you know, back to Jacquel's point, is there something in Web 2 that does, you know, what you're trying to do? Do you need a DAO to do exactly this? And I think where we actually ended up with the conversation is that didn't really need the DAO to do that, because when it comes end of the day, artists don't necessarily want everything dictated about their creative process, right? It's still, you know, what their expression is. I think feedback from fans is always hugely important, and community engagement is definitely a great part of marketing and building a good community. But I think, yeah, if you take a pure DAO concept, it's right. Nobody owns anything in a DAO, right? It's all controlled by a community. I'm not sure how that would, you know, from my perspective, at least work with an artist, right? Because would the artist be told, you know, you got to do these chord changes, or you got to go here, you got to do those types of things, because they're not actually in control anymore in a, you know, as a pure form DAO. So I think there are definitely elements of DAO like community-based voting or earning rewards or things like that that can be done without going full DAO. But again, just sort of what I've been looking at from our research and such.
Yeah, we've of course thought about this as well. I like the definition of a DAO around a community with a shared bank account, right? And of course, it's not only just money that you decide on what to do, but a community with a shared responsibility to decide kind of what happens. And I think, you know, there are, in fact, ways that it doesn't necessarily have to be deciding things around the artist's career. Fandoms, trust me, nowadays are becoming independent bodies of work, right? Independent units that, yes, of course, they love the artist. That's how they met each other. That will run through their DNA. But a fandom is an entity in and of itself. And so things that can be decided on are, you know, what charities do we support, and how are we going to make sure that that is something that is within what we're doing? What events are we going to do together, and how can we put energy toward this one that we want to have, right, to enable this mission to come together? You know, how can we support these you know, few people in our community who maybe can't afford the album pack that came out physically that everybody wants, and we want to understand how to support them in their needs, right? These, again, are things that we see popping up where fans are supporting other fans in this way, or they are making collective decisions together, or forming sub organizations, right? True organizations. And it's incredibly powerful and incredibly inspiring. And we want to empower that even further. So whether or not, again, that needs to be a DAO, right, it's again, that is technology before the value. But I think considering it in the way of it not necessarily being controlling what the artist does, and it's so interesting to hear you say the artist thought about starting the DAO, right? Because there can absolutely be the fandoms who, you know, we are an organization, and our organization's job is to support this artist. They have their own career and their interests of what they're doing, but these fandoms can be, again, these bodies that I'm so excited to see and enable happening even more, that they can feel equipped to come together and do things, right?
That's a really cool idea, Jacquel, where the DAO is not necessarily have anything to, you know, it's not, you know, necessarily directed by the artist, but it's a more of a vehicle, if you will, for the fan base to be able to do things together, with the central topic being, hey, we all love BTS or such. I think that's a really cool idea, and having having a central treasury, maybe that's where they all get together, and they, you know, just the treasury buys drinks or something for everybody. It could be something simple like that, or mobilizing people who can't afford to buy tickets or go to the show or things like that. I think that's a cool idea where it's really it's about the fan community and making sort of, lack of a better word, business entity, central treasury for that. That's a cool idea. I like that.
Love it.
Just my input on that, from what I've learned on this front, is that I can't figure out so much how this works with a music artist, but we've got a few television clients or TV shows. So one of them is called Most Haunted, which is the UK equivalent to Ghost Hunters in the US. And they're quite interested in the idea of saying, well, what ghost are we going to go and find now? What building are we going to exercise, if that's the right word? And so I think that works to sort of push things in a direction. I'm not really sure how it would work. So far, I've not come across anything for an artist that can make work, interestingly, but great ideas. I don't know how that works in practice, really. But again, with Walking Dead, that's the Walking Dead app is something that looking for direction from the users of that and the NFT holders of that. And that seems to be more along the lines of what new NFT are we going to produce next? So they've just produced a second one off the back that was minted because you owned the first one. So things like that seem to work a lot better in my mind, at least compared to an artist.
I think Jacquel makes a really good point that like these communities are already existing, whether the artist makes them or not, like whether the artist decides, oh, do I want to make a DAO or whatever it is, these communities are kind of forming on their own. It's the same as like, super fan Twitter accounts that are often like the best source of information if you're trying to, buy tickets to a tour or whatever it is, even before going to the artist's website. So, starting to think of those communities as like actual organizations that have real value and potentially, bringing that into a DAO format, I think is really interesting. But I think we are almost up on time. There's one more question, not to like open another rabbit hole when we only have a few minutes left, but I haven't really seen anyone talking about this. So I just wanted to see if you guys have heard anything or have dealt with it. But just, we know, and I know Jacquel and I have had a lot of conversations about this, how important data is to fan building, understanding who your fans are, segmenting them into passive fans versus super fans, all of these things. I don't really know how any of that is going to work in Web3 since there's such a huge privacy angle of everything being anonymous and everything, just being on the blockchain, decentralized. Have you had conversations about or engaged with this issue of how do we handle fan data in Web3?
I mean, that's something.
Go for it.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that's something that actually we focus on, and it's kind of key to our mission. So originally we had started the company a couple of years ago. It was, as I had mentioned, a fan CRM, marketing data, all that type of stuff. Problem with that is artists don't want to do emails and they don't want to do social ads, right? That's not fun. They want to do music. So what we said is this is something that's very important because Spotify doesn't tell you who all your listeners are, all that kind of stuff. So we made the pivot to transition to making these branded tokens as the lead product. And on the back end, what we can now do is we can really collect some really exciting first party data, like who claims tokens, where did they claim from, all these different calls to action. We've actually developed what we call a peer-to-peer advertising model where fans can be rewarded for sharing content, brands can sponsor different token drops, and this can actually really help drive commerce. And this is something that's pretty, important and timely in just sort of the wider advertising world, with Facebook potentially losing 10 billion in ad revenue this year because of Apple's privacy policies. First party data becomes extremely more important. So to your question about the anonymity of Web3, I think there's kind of two in our vision. Web3 kind of splits into two sides. One is like completely decentralized, anonymous. Nobody knows who anybody is. On the other side, kind of where we're more focusing, we technically brand ourselves as a centralized finance platform. So what does that mean? That means that users have to do KYC. So they have to go through the process of know your customer, where we need to collect, your financial information if you're going to be paying with a credit card. This is sort of where a lot of regulatory things are going. There's been, focus for Coinbase to be, they need to report all of that data for tax reasons as the U.S. is continuing to further tax cryptocurrency. So for certain platforms, certainly like ours, that is part of the service that we provide, is that we use the tokens as a way to reward and incentivize the community of fans, but also provide first-party data collection opportunities for artists as well as brand partners.
Oh, you're frozen. I don't know if you can hear us, Jeremy.
Shall I?
No,
Jeremy's back. I was going to say, I totally agree with what Jeremy said there. Actually, I think the idea of the sort of the days of anonymous NFTs, I think, are coming to a close because you can't trust them anyway. Most of them are rug pulls. I think the whole idea of being anonymous has really strangely come from Twitter / Discord and the kind of people that use that, and it's now sort of spread into areas that probably it shouldn't have spread into. But ultimately, you can't fulfill any commitment or any roadmap item without knowing who you're dealing with. So, before this company, my previous company that I sold was affiliate window or awin.com. And that was all about data. I came into the sort of music industry, managing bands also, and thought, how the hell is this industry even functioning without fan data? And I think you need the fan data. There's no way that you can organize anything in a brand related scenario without knowing who you're dealing with. So totally agree, Jeremy, if you didn't hear that.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm back now. No, absolutely. Totally agree with that as well.
Yeah, no, thank you both. That's all really, really helpful. I've just been very curious about that question and haven't found that many answers. Before I hand it over to Niall, Jacquelle, did you have anything to add?
I can be brief. I think that there's plenty of ways that we can segment beyond just the, what do you listen to? How much do you listen to? But what activities do you do as a fan? Who are you? Right. And I think that's where the frustration of, DSPs not providing much more than, user ID and can be so much interesting around, again, how much do you go to events and which ones, which people in this community are biased toward that activity, right? Which ones are collectors and love having, again, the memorabilia build dust in their room that they, again, want to show off to fellow fans? Who are the people who are creators within the community? And as you pointed out in the beginning, Tatiana, right? Fans are becoming creators, and how can we unlock that even more? So I think while there's anonymization, there are interesting ways to find different groups that can empower you to tap into marketing to a segment of fans to resonate with them in a different way than just whether you're passive or super fan, right? There's nuances to this that I think can help us get around that angle while being rich, but while being privacy sensitive.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Awesome. Well, this has been super enlightening. I appreciate you all for being here and sharing your insights.